You're right there. Got a bunch of people right there with you, buddy.
I'm sorry. All right.
If I can have everyone's attention, we'll go ahead and continue our media availability. We now welcome Jeff Burton, driver of the number 31 Cat Mining Chevrolet. Big milestone here for you this weekend, Jeff. Obviously, you've had a stout career at NASCAR, making your 1,000th career NASCAR National Series start here at Phoenix. Talk a little bit about your career and what this milestone means to you.
Well, it means I'm getting old, I guess. That's primarily what it means. But you know, I've been really blessed to do it for as long as I've done it. To do something that you love and be able to do it as long as I've done it is really a blessing. And you know, when I was 7 years old, I wanted to be a race car driver. I'm 46 and I'm a race car driver. So you know, it's been really blessed. I've worked with the cool thing is just met so many people and experienced so many things that I would have been able to do. And to have a chance to compete for a living is really a cool thing. It's you know what your job is and go out and try to do it. And you know, competing to me means something, and to be able to do it this long has been really cool.
We'll take questions. We'll start in the back with Wolfgang, and then we'll come up front to Stan.
Wolfgang Monser from German Rennsport Press Agency. Hi. Jeff, in short-term or long-term future, is this your option to set up your own Sprint Cup team?
Do I look dumb? You know, there was a time that I really thought that would be an option for me, but in the environment that we have today, it just, you know, I don't know how, you know, a small guy could have a Cup team that would be a formidable force. You know, my pockets aren't deep enough and wouldn't have the financial. You know, I've always equated it to. Actually, Jack Roush told me, you know, talked to me about the money tree one time. You know, that if he had to, he could turn the money tree on and create money, you know, for the investment until the investment had time to pay off. And if you can't do that as a car owner, I don't think you can be an effective car owner. And so for me in today's world, there may be room for me as an ownership group, but to be the primary owner would be far-fetched.
Okay, we'll take our next question up front from Stan. Go ahead.
Stan Creekmore with RPMTonight.com. First, I have to apologize. I haven't seen your 999 previous races, at least not every single one of them.
You're forgiven.
Thank you. Of those 999, which one sticks in your mind the most?
You know, I've done a terrible job in my career of taking time to enjoy it. My personality is such that I'm always on to the next thing, and so in many cases, you know, kind of looking back on them now, they're a little more special now than they were then. Racing Matt Kenseth for those you know, those couple wins that I got, you know, with him meant a lot to me because I respect Matt so much, and I respect what that 17 car was all about, and they meant a lot to me. Winning my first races in Nationwide and Cup were big races. Racing Kyle Busch at Vegas in a Nationwide car, last lap battle, you know, got by him on the outside. You know, he spun, coming off turn 4. I mean, that was fun. You know what I mean? It was just two guys racing hard, and it would have, if I would have finished second or spun, it still would have been fun. You know, those experiences were really neat. And winning Darlington, you know, in adverse conditions, you know, rain delays, those kind of things. You know, where we went to Darlington and dominated those races for years and couldn't find a way to win, and then we won 2 of them in rain-shortened races. Winning those All-Star, the Winston No Bull races, you know, I think we won 3 of those. And when we won 3 of those races, 3 fans won $1 million too. And being in victory lane with those fans, winning that money, that was cool. So I mean, I hate to pick one out, but you know, those were really cool events.
Okay, we'll take our next question in the back from Brian, then go up front to Jenna.
Brian Nelson, Motor Racing Network. Jeff, when you here we are at the end of the first year with the Gen 6 car, and we're looking at making some changes for next season. So what's your evaluation of how the car has changed racing over last year and how it's performed, and then maybe what we need to tweak?
Well, I think it's an improvement over last year's car. I think that's evident. In watching races, I think it's proven to be better. I still think there's a step to go, you know, and I'm guilty of comparing what we do today to what we did 15 years ago. But I think that's irrelevant. I think what we really need to be looking at is what do people want to see today? And so sometimes we defend the racing today by saying, well, it's better than it was 10 years ago. But that doesn't matter, because today's fans are today's fans. And there may be a fan that was there 10 years ago, but what they're watching today is what they care about. And so fans want to see more action. They want to see more intense racing. And the only way to do that is to get the cars closer together. We talk a lot about making it easier to pass. Well, if you make it easier to pass, are the cars really going to be closer together? I mean, do we really want it to be easier to pass? I think the reason Martinsville is so much fun to watch and do is because it is hard to pass. So the definition of what better racing is where the problem comes in. And you're not going to make everybody happy. I think what NASCAR has to do is they have to look and say, what is NASCAR all about? And then make the rules so that the racing is indicative of what NASCAR is about. And that it should be close racing, not intentionally wrecking each other, but tire marks down the side of cars is cool. That kind of close racing is what we need to be pushing for. But it is hard to do. A 1.5 mile racetrack running, 190 miles an hour into turn one, it's kind of hard to be rubbing tires. So we got to find a way to have cars that can be closer together, can race harder, to put on more exciting racing.
Okay, we'll take our next question up front from Jenna, then go to David and Dave.
Jenna Fryer, AP. When you sat down, you mentioned that you wanted to be a race car driver when you were 7, and here you are at 46 years old, and your age struck me in the sense that you look at other sports, a running back, his career probably, he turns 30, and whether he likes it or not, he's on the downside of his career. And maybe pitchers and things like that, they don't really get a say. But auto racing is so different from that, in that you guys have this, have a say on when you want to call it quits. You're 46, Mark Martin's 54, James Hilton's 78 years old, ran 21 ARCA races this year. And when does a race car driver know when it's time to go?
Well, that's a really tough question. And, one thing I do know is that when you aren't having success and you're 46, it's because you're 46. That's what people think, right? When you aren't having success and you're a rookie, it's because you're a rookie also. It works both ways. To me, it's about what you're willing to give up to be in the sport. I think what happens is the older you get, the more other things matter. Racing still means a lot to me, but for me to sit here today and say it means the same thing to me that it meant when I didn't have a daughter getting ready to go to college, a son that's racing, those things, they do play a role. And so I think that the schedule's harder today than it's ever been. I know guys used to race more in the 50s, but I've been in Toronto all week filming, so you're gone more today. So I think it boils down to desire. If you have talent, I don't think talent goes away. Certainly eyesight changes, those kind of things change, but we can fix that. But talent doesn't change. It's more the passion that you're willing to bring to it. And as long as you're willing to bring that passion and you're willing to give something up, then your career can go a long time. But I think it's not a number, It's more of a personal thing and what you're willing to sacrifice to be involved in a sport.
Okay, we'll take our next question in the middle from David, then go back up front to Dave.
I actually have two now, one playing off that. I mean, you look at Crafton, who's 37. You look at two guys in their 40s battling for the Cup title. Sam's no spring chicken. I mean, we talk about all these kids coming up, but, I mean, does this year tell us that men of a certain age can still do this?
Well, there's no question. I mean, and we are blessed because we are in a sport that you can. You don't have to be. It isn't like the NFL. It isn't like Major League Baseball or where you don't have to be young to do this. Experience helps you here. It helps you. So there's no question. I mean, it's good to see who's battling. I mean, don't get me wrong. I believe in the cycle of things. I believe that we always need to have young drivers coming and pushing the older drivers out. I'm a 46-year-old driver saying that, but we need it. Our sport needs that. But at the same time, it's good that we have two veteran drivers battling it out because it is a sport that if you have passion and you have desire and you have the right situation, you can have success well into your 40s.
And secondly, it looks like in your Busch debut back in '88, you made 2 laps in the Golden Skillet car for the engine blew. Do you remember that day?
Vividly. I had that was the second engine we blew up that day. I had gone to the bank and borrowed money. We wonder why the banks are in trouble, right? I'd gone to the bank to borrow money to buy an engine, and it blew up after qualifying. And Hubert Hensley, Jeff Hensley's dad, who's the crew chief on the truck, said, "Hey man, I got an engine if you need it." And we went to his shop that night, and we had a Pontiac engine in, had to put a Chevy engine in, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but it was a big deal. And we ran that engine for those laps, and it blew up. So yes, I remember it vividly. It took me about 3 years to pay that damn engine off. No, it didn't. It took me longer than that. It took me like 5 years to pay that engine off.
We'll take our next question up front from Dave, then go to Lewis, Dustin, and Tom.
Dave Coleman, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. Jeff, of the 2 championship leaders, my guess is you know Matt a little better than Jimmy probably, but can you kind of compare and contrast them both as racers and as people?
You know, they race. They're very similar in how they race. They're both quietly aggressive. You know, they're both aggressive drivers, but they don't do it by, running into you. They do it by, driving in a corner a little deeper than perhaps they should, to get that position. They're both clean drivers. Both very committed to the sport. They're a lot alike. I don't know Jimmy nearly as well off the racetrack. Matt's a smart ass. We all know that, right? And he knows that too. And he claims that he learned it from me, but I don't think that's true. But they're good. They're both good people. They both have values that you can be proud of. They're the kind of people that when they win championships, you're proud that they represent the sport. But their driving styles really are very similar.
All right, we'll take our next question from Lewis.
From Speed Week. Jeff, when you're a young driver, you might have been asked, what would you be doing if you weren't driving? And looking over your long career, I was wondering, what do you think you would have been doing if you weren't driving race cars?
Well, I left high school and went to work for Jay Hedgecock building race cars, building chassis. And actually, me and Bobby Labonte and Jack Sprague all worked there at the same time. So we were, I really enjoy that part. Even, my time at Roush, Jack let me kind of oversee the chassis department there for a while, or be involved in it rather. And so I really enjoyed that part of it. So had I not been able to make it as a driver, that would have been the direction that I would have tried to go in. And whether I've been good at it or not, I don't know, but that's what I would have been trying to do.
Okay, we'll take our next question from Dustin, then go Tom, Chris, and Gluck.
Dustin Long, Motor Racing Network. Jeff, also change at RCR with Kevin Harvick moving on. He's been all there through all those years. You've certainly been there for a good bit of that time. He talked earlier about the relationship with Richard, and they've had their ups and downs. How do you think Kevin will handle not having that type of force or push? I mean, how they've gotten, because certainly it seems like they've, in one sense, kind of maybe thrived on how they've pushed each other and what it's kind of been like, because it certainly on the outside looking in at times has seemed dramatic.
Well, I think Kevin is going to, wherever Kevin is, he's going to be pushing. Kevin, and that's one of Kevin's strengths is to. Kevin's not the kind of guy that's willing to say, okay, it's going to be good 3 weeks from now. He wants it good right now, and I think that RCR has benefited from that. And I think that Stuart Haas will benefit from that. And Kevin to me is a different person than he was 4 years ago. Kevin owning those race teams, Keelan coming along, all those things have had a major impact on Kevin. And Kevin really sees the company as, he understands it has to be successful from a financial standpoint. He understands investment's not easy to make. So he has a much broader picture than he had, say, 6 years ago, and I think that he will help Stuart Haas. And Richard, to his credit, much like my father did with me, Richard let Kevin Like, Richard didn't try to stifle Kevin. Richard let Kevin be Kevin. And he would get mad at him, but he wasn't the kind of guy that just would say, you're not going to do that. You know, he would let Kevin be Kevin. And there was a lot of wisdom in that, because you got to learn your way. You can't learn by somebody telling you not to do something. You got to learn by doing it and then wishing you hadn't have done it. Or at least that's how I've learned everything I've learned. And that's really what Richard, in my opinion, let Kevin do. But Kevin's really good at pushing buttons to try to get things to happen. And you have to do that in this sport. You have to do it. And if you don't have that intensity of, we've got to succeed now, then the future never gets here. Because if you're always building for something, then you're not doing it now, and the now matters.
Okay, we'll take our next question from Tom, then go to Chris, Gluck, and Bob.
Hey, Jeff. Tom Jensen, FoxSports.com.
Thank you.
Congratulations on the 1,000th start. Where do you see yourself being in 5 years? What do you want to be doing?
I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. When this process started this year, I decided to step back a little bit and take myself out of the mental habit of being at the racetrack every single weekend, and look at things from a broader view, and kind of, hey, what else is out there in the racing world, so to speak. And the last several months have been really interesting. I've been offered some things that were just crazy that I can't talk about today, but some really interesting things have come my way, and I'm having meetings with people currently about doing stuff with them that are really exciting, but I don't know. We'll see. I will be involved in the sport. There's a place for me. I want to be here. I feel like I can contribute, and so I'd be surprised if 5 years from now I wasn't still involved in the sport.
Okay, we'll come up front now with a question from Chris. Go ahead.
ChrisKnight@catchfence.com. Can you talk about Harrison? I know he's still pretty young, but has he talked to you about what he wants to do in the future as far as nationwide and even a Cup driver in the future? And is that something that you feel like that you want him to take a path with?
Well, what I've tried to do with Harrison is to teach him everything I know about racing. But we don't go racing trying to teach him how to be a Cup driver or how to be a nationwide driver. We go racing trying to teach him how to do what he's doing today the best he can. And then when it's over, what did we learn? And where that takes him, we don't know. He's doing things at 12 and 13 years old that are pretty much unmatched. I mean, no one else has been able to do the things he's done at his age. And I'm not bragging. That's just how it is. But what's more important to me is that through all this, he's learning how to be a human being. Because, driving a race car isn't a given. You don't have the opportunity. It's not just because he's the son of a Cup driver. That doesn't give him the right any more than it gives anyone else a right to drive a race car for a living. He's got to earn that. He may not. He may not be as good as he looks today. He may not look that good 5 years from now. You never know. But he's always going to be with himself. And so through racing, we're trying to teach him how to be the kind of person that he needs to be. And that's really the primary focus. Now, don't get me wrong. We go to race, we go there to win, or we go there with a realistic goal. When he races against Bubba Pollard and he races against some of those guys, to think that a just turned 13-year-old is going to beat those guys right now is sort of unrealistic, although he's getting close. But what did he learn from that experience? And that's really what we're focusing on. We're not worried about what he might be one day, because we don't know that. We're trying to train him so that mentally he's capable, and his physical skills will take care of themselves, but his mental skills are what are the most important thing. And so we're not, as far as he's concerned, he's going to win 3 or 4 Daytona 500s and 4 or 5 championships, and all is good. But I know that, probably isn't going to happen. And that's, so that's what, as parents, that's what our focus is on.
Okay, we'll take our next question right here in the middle from Gluck, then go to the back to Bob.
Jeff Gluck from USA Today. Jeff, you haven't announced your plans for next year yet. Mark Martin hasn't announced any plans for next year. Bobby Labonte hasn't announced plans for next year. After next week's race, are we looking at the possible end of an era with 3 veterans?
We're going to go film a movie about 3 old guys in Vegas. That just dawned on me. I'm thinking that might work. Mark would be boring as hell, though. He'd be in the gym every morning, you know. I find it hard to believe that we won't still be around in some form or fashion. Now, whether the chances that any of us are going to be running for a Cup championship next year are obviously, next to nothing. But Mark Martin has a tremendous amount of value of being able to have a positive impact on the sport in some form or fashion. So does Bobby Labonte, and I feel that about myself as well. So, but yeah, I think that you are going to see it is going to be different, and but it's okay. It's okay. I mean, it's and I'm not speaking for Mark or Bobby, either one, but for me, it's when I came in, a spot was created for me. Somehow, some way, a spot was created for me. Part of that is through older guys moving on, and it's just a natural cycle of things. But to think that Mark Martin and Bobby Labonte don't have a way to contribute to make this sport better, whether it be for a team or for the sport in some form or fashion, to think that they wouldn't is inaccurate, because they can definitely help.
Okay, we'll take our final question from Bob. Go ahead.
Bob Parker, Sporting News. A few weeks ago, you said that you were pretty confident in your 2014 plans. Should we take the silence to mean that maybe things have changed or anything?
No, really nothing's changed. I feel that I know what I'm going to be doing. It's just y'all don't, and so it just hasn't. Some things have taken a little longer than I thought they would take, but. And some of that's because of me. Some of that's because I slowed some stuff down and wanted to really think about it. And some of it is because some situations have popped up that weren't there, a little bit ago. So I feel very confident that I know exactly what I'm going to be doing part of next year, and there's another part of it that I'm still working on, but really close on. So but I just can't. I'm just not the kind of person that's going to talk about it until we need to be talking about it. I'm sorry? I couldn't.
We couldn't hear you, Bob. Driving. Part of that is driving.
Yeah, part of it is. Yeah.
Jeff, thank you for your time, and on behalf of NASCAR, congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yep.